Some people know him as Taron Pounds. Other people know him as Indestructible over on YouTube. I know him as the guy who makes ridiculously fun and unapologetic classes for 5th edition. And for his own RPG. He also has his own RPG. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Tarosk and today I want to talk about Anthology of Heroes by Taron Pounds. Now, you might remember me talk about a few classes created by Taron Pounds that were in separate little booklets. So a few unapologetically fun classes for 5th edition. One of them being like a fighter type, tank type dude with like 2 tower shields just moving forward, not being able to like do a lot of attacks but taking a lot of attacks. That kind of stuff is in here because Taron Pounds now decided to put all of the classes and stuff and the feeds and everything with that he created in those separate booklets into one big hardcover that you can get. You can get the PDF for 25 bucks if I'm not mistaken, and the hardcover, this one, for about 50 bucks if I'm not mistaken. And then if you get both at the same time, you get a little discount. Of course, it's on Drive-Thru-RPG, sorry, Dungeon Masters Guild, and you can get it for yourself. So what I want to do in this video really quickly is just like tell you what you get for your money, and then dive into the PDF and show you 1 or 2 things that I find really, really cool. So what is Anthology of Heroes? Like I said, it is the combination of all of the classes that Taron Pounds has put out on Drive-Thru-RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, wherever, in the last few years, and a lot of these classes I have in my possession as separate booklets, but he bundled them in this this big hardcover that is, let me see, I should have prepared this, 167, almost 170 pages thick. And what you get is multiple best-selling classes for the critically acclaimed 5th edition character option creator. Within this tome, you'll find the Alchemist class, the Dancer class, the Merchant class, the Revised Ranger class, really important one, the Runekeeper class, don't love that one, the Sovereign class, I mean, the Runekeeper class is a good class, but just not my kind of class, the Sovereign class, the Vanguard class, this is my kind of thing, that's like the tank of tanks, multiple subclasses for official options, dozens of new spell, and the runic invocation magic system. So you get all of that in this book, all designed by Indestructible himself. If you don't know who that is, make sure to click the link in the description below to his channel and follow his channel because he's amazing. He's also creating his own tabletop RPG system. Actually, it's actually finished. You can already download it digitally and all that stuff, and he has Kickstarters going on to like provide a print copy of that and all of that stuff. It's really well worth it. So without further ado, let's get into the PDF. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Anthology of Heroes by Indestructible, Taron Pounds, whatever you want to call him. And I don't want to go like super deep into this book or like go over everything that is in here, but here's the table of contents. For example, as you can see, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 classes in here, and some of them have the same name as a class in 5th edition, and others don't have the same name as a class in 5th edition. And that is what I like about it. Like, Taron really goes, this book is completely out of left field. Like, a lot of stuff in here is like, feels a little bit out of left field if you first read it. It is like super unapologetic, like pure utter fun. So if you want to use this book in your games, you want to use a class from this book in your games, make sure to ask your game master if they are okay with that. I would be completely 100% totally fine with that. And don't get me wrong, this is like super playable, and Taron does a great job on balancing everything out. He really thinks everything through. He has like these design live streams on his channel where you can see him really like think about stuff, about balance and about the stuff having a place in the game and all of that stuff. So it is not like it's unbalanced, it just feels like very different from what you get from like Wizards of the Coast or Kobold Press or whatever, right? So he has a bunch of classes in here, and some are like entirely new classes and others are subclasses. So for example, for the fighter, he has martial archetypes. For the druid, he has druid circles. Then there is a merchant class, which is an entirely new class. There is a ranger class, which is not an entirely new class, but it is a revised version of the other class, but it is completely different. But there's also like information, and I really like this, about equipment and downtime. and then there are customization options. So just to give you an idea, let's go into the, the Vanguard, right? I talked about this on my channel before. The Vanguard is high control and defense character with low damage output. This class forgoes conventional damage spikes for defense spikes and grants you the ability to more actively tank by focusing on defending through the ready action and shoving. So that is what the then there's a few things they talk about, like an action they have is ready your move to also shove, bonus action, shove, movement, stay as close to the enemy as possible. The ready action allows you to react to danger rather than have to predict it to intercede. So creating a Vanguard, all that stuff is in here, and I talked about this on my channel. It's really cool. So it's basically, it is a D12 hit points, so it is a tank. This thing is a tank. It's a D12 hit points. It's not just a fighter that has a D10, if I'm not mistaken. So a D12 hit points. It has a shield or a tower shield. A tower shield, by the way, is something that he has in the equipment section of this book. There is a tower shield in here, which works differently from tower shields that I've been using in my games that I come up with. For me, a tower shield is just like, hey, you want a tower shield? Yeah, sure. It's a +3 shield. Like, it's not a +3 shield as in like a magical shield. It's just a shield that gives you a plus on your armor class of 3 instead of 2. That's for me a tower shield. But what Taron does, he, if I'm not mistaken, a tower shield just gives +2 armor class, but it also gives half cover to the bearer, right? So, class feature, Shield Bearer. You prioritize protecting above all else, specializing in defense combat with shields. You can benefit from wielding 2 shields at the same time. If you do, the armor class bonus of the second shield is halved, and you can use a bonus action to try and shove a creature. Additionally, when you're holding a tower shield, which is the one that I talked about in chapter 4, you can use a bonus action to take on a wide stance, providing half cover to creatures of your choice within 5 feet of you until the start of your next turn or until you doff the shield. So that is how Taron designs stuff. He takes an ID and he goes all in on that ID, right? So something that when 5th edition released, and now still in a way, something that I really missed is like the Dwarven Defender type character. Like in 3rd or 3.5, there was like a class that was literally, like a subclass was literally called Dwarven Defender. And I have always missed that kind of thing in 5th edition. You could build a really strong AC character, but it never felt that it was really there for like super defense purposes, like holding a line while archers are shooting over you and spearmen are stabbing creatures while you're just like holding the line and maybe even pushing people back. That is basically what this class is all about, and that is why I love Taron's way of designing things. Take an ID and just stuff everything in there to make that ID come to life. In battle, you stand guard over your allies, ready to be their Aegis, is that a word? If you take the ready action to move up to your speed, you do not need to set a specific trigger for the reaction, and you can try to shove a creature as part of the same reaction. Further, if a creature provokes an opportunity attack from you, you can try to shove it instead. Cool stuff. So you can shove creatures and you can shove creatures. Then you can move a little bit and you can shove creatures, but you can also shove creatures. Oh, and you can give other people half cover. Like people who are next to you. Like somebody with bow and arrow, just give them half cover. Like you're just standing there with 2 shields, like, come at me, bro. And the other guys are casting fire ball and stuff like that over your shields. A second level feature, while wearing heavy armor, you are a walking bastion of unbreakable poise, granting you the following benefits. Heavy armor has a little side note. This restriction is not intended to exclude races with threats that restrict them from heavy armor. Okay. Any bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage you take is reduced by an amount equal to half your Vanguard level. I fucking love that. I really love that. So that's only a second level feature, right? So these are just like passive. While wearing heavy armor, this is passive. You have a damage reduction, basically, for bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. No, I mean, you have like, it's not damage reduction, it's like a, what's it called? I forgot the name. You count as large size when making strength, athletics checks, and strength saving throws if you were previously smaller. You also have advantage on strength athletics checks you make against creatures smaller than you. If you succeed in shoving a target that is your size or smaller, you can push it up to 10 feet away from you or push the target up to 5 feet away from you and knock it prone. Knocking somebody prone is a really strong mechanic in 5th edition. I've always loved to build fighters with like a spear who have like these battle movements, whatever you call them, and they focused on knocking people prone. So that my friend the paladin or my other friend the barbarian can like really dish out some damage against them because I knocked them prone and I'm keeping them prone. So that is the idea of the Vanguard class. It's basically there's a lot more to it, right? There is like a subclass to it. There's like subclasses for it, and it is just built around being a tank of tanks. I can see myself building like a Goliath, the race Goliath, Vanguard, and just like being really into like that defensive stuff, and you can really balance that out with other classes that shoot from afar or can have reach weapons like long spears to reach for 10 feet, so they can reach over you and you can just stand in front of them, basically. And that brings me to the equipment section really quickly, because there's a really important rule thing here that comes with the territory if you give a tower shield or an item the benefit of half cover. So as you can see right here, I'll zoom in a little bit. Is this still viewable? Yes, it's still viewable for you. There's a tower shield, costs 70 gold pieces, gives you +2 on AC, which is the same as just a normal shield, right? You should have 15 strength in order to wield it, and it is heavy and two-handed and special. Now, tower shields grant you half cover. Now, it's really important that and that is what I like these rule clarifications are really important in these kinds of things, because I can see this situation come up, right? A target can benefit from a cover only when an attack or other effect originates on the opposing side of the cover, and that is the dangerous part of it. If you're not playing with miniatures like I do, I play Theater of the Mind, it is really important to point your guy, when you're playing with miniatures, to point your guy towards your miniature towards a certain side, right? And to like in your turn or whatever, move them around if like an attack comes from another, like other attackers come from another side, and you're like, no, I want to have more defense on that side of the party. I want more defense on that side of the party, because if you just if you don't read this, you might forget, like a player might be like, whoa, wait a second, I got half cover. Right, so I have 2 armor class, even more, right? So that's a difference between like Taron could have just like put like here a +3 or a +4 for this shield, but that's not what he was going for. He was going for like literally you have just normal armor class in your back and in your sides, but in front of you where you're facing, there you have the +2 from a creature that gains the benefits of half cover has +2 to its AC and dexterity saving throws. So it's also like very good against some dragons and all that stuff with like breath weapons that make you make dexterity saving throws. So yeah, it is really important that he states that, and it is really important, especially if you play Theater of the Mind, to ask your player or to tell your player like, hey, I don't mind you playing with this mechanic, but make sure to tell me where you're facing, because otherwise I will just make assumptions and that's the end of it, right? It's just a little important thing that I wanted to get out of the way about this. And I wouldn't be Mr. Tarask if I didn't take a look at the fighter when I take a look at books that have classes in them, because the fighter is my go-to class always. I love the fighter, and Taron basically created 2 subclasses for the fighter. Well, he didn't create 2 subclasses for the fighter, he created 1 subclass called the Life Reaver, and then he has like a revised version of the Rune Knight or something like that. The following features replace the Rune Knight features in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Now, I'm not into the Rune Knight. I don't really like that. Now, the Life Reaver, at first glance, I didn't really find that really super interesting, because in the general sense, I'm never really into that taking hit points from a creature and healing from that mechanic. I don't know why I'm not into that, but that's just something that I've never been like really into, that kind of like dark, mysterious necromancy type stuff, right? But I really love the mechanics of this, and there's some really smart stuff in here, and I actually really like it. So the Dreadlord, you choose to gain proficiency with either the medicine or religion skill. You gain the chill touch cantrip. Constitution is your spellcasting ability for it. When you make an attack, so life steal. This is the thing why at first I was like, meh, but it's actually pretty cool. When you make an attack against a creature that is not a construct or undead, and roll a 19 or score a critical hit, you siphon some of the creature's essence. When this happens, you can choose to either regain hit points equal to half the damage dealt, or gain temporary hit points to half the damage dealt. Now, I really like that he gives us the choice of gaining hit points or gaining temporary hit points. There is a big distinction between the two. At first glance, for like new players, they feel like the same-ish, but they are entirely not the same. Whatever your choice, the total cannot exceed the number of hit points the creature had before the attack was made, which is a really cool little clarification in there, which really, again, says a lot about the game design brain that is Taron, because just putting this in here just balances it out a lot more than stop talking right here, right? Then there is, when you use your second wind feature, I also like this a lot. When you use your second wind feature, you can choose to forgo regaining hit points to gain temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level instead. So again, the distinction between healing yourself with your second wind and gaining temporary hit points. So even just a simple example, if you are at full hit points, you have 40 hit points and you are at full, and you start an encounter and you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna start off with a second wind, and you do your second wind, you can gain temporary hit points on top of your max hit points, right? Which is a great thing to have, because you can start the fight with more hit points than you had when you didn't yet start the fight, right? This is also a really cool one. Bloodforge. When you have temporary hit points, you gain a bonus to your AC and to Constitution saving throws equal to half your proficiency bonus, and you have resistance to necrotic and poison damage. That is really, really, really strong. Have your proficiency bonus to armor class is incredibly strong potentially. Because like in 5th edition, one armor class actually means a lot. It's not like you need like 5 or 6 points to it for it actually to mean something. No, one armor class extra means a lot. So having half of that, half of your proficiency bonus goes up by 1, goes up by 2, goes up by 3 later in the game, which is really cool. Additionally, if you have temporary hit points and receive more of them, you can add them together up to a maximum equal to your fighter level. Normally, when you have temporary hit points, let's say you have 7 temporary hit points and somebody gives you 9 temporary hit points, you don't have 16 temporary hit points suddenly, you have 9. You always take the highest. With this, you could have 16. To a maximum equal to your fighter level. So you would need to be level 16 in order to do that. But you know what I mean. I think that is really, really cool. There's some really, really, really cool mechanics in here. And that is basically also the reason why I wanted to talk about this book. Because there is much more in this book. There's new feats in here. There's new spells in here. There's a lot of classes in here. There's some information about downtime activity in here. There's much more than I talk about in like one video. But I just wanted to show it to you. It's quality. It's awesome artwork, by the way. It's really well written and well designed, mostly. And I think a lot of people who are looking for some fresh new eyes on some fresh new classes could really benefit from this book. If you want to grab it, make sure to click the link in the description below. And until next video, bye bye.